This is. Hello. Test. Check. I think. I think we're capturing this. Yes, we sure are. All right. Um. Today I have. Sorry, I'm changing my title here so that people see not drawing flowers. Today we're gonna draw something a little bit weird, a little bit challenging, but a lot of fun, I think. But let me change the title here. Trying. All right. So yes, today. Let me just turn this so I can see me. I had a little bit of a time putting this setup together. I have my camera, my iPod balanced looking down for this camera, and then I have my computer facing me over here. But it's good to be with y'all. Opening this up so I can see any comments that might pop up. All right, cool. Okay, so today I thought we would draw a tissue box. I was last night. I was sitting there on my couch, and we had this box of tissues, and I had my pencil and my pad, and I just started drawing all the little folds in the tissue, as well as the box itself, and it was really fun. It has the hard edges of the box, but also has all the soft curves of the tissue. And I thought, wow, what a perfect thing to draw, even though it seems like such an uninspired object. It really has two distinct areas that are fun to draw. Um, I'm using this little thing to balance it up because I had it straight down like this, but since the camera's looking straight down, it's kind of boring just to see a square. I kind of wanted some kind of angle, so there was a bright side and a dark side. So I'm just trying different ways of propping it up. Let's see. I think I have a little box that I can use. Let's try this. Try to get it at a nice angle to draw. Almost there. Something like maybe with two boxes. I don't know. Close. That's decent. I kind of want maybe this a little lower. Let's try like this. I'll get it right. Sometimes it's nice to spend the time setting something up instead of drawing something that doesn't inspire you. Um, let's see. What I want is to get two sides of a box against the camera. Okay. That'll do, huh? Push it over. Yeah, that looks good. So at least I have this dark side here and the light side, and then I can see the tissues up top. I'm going to try to scoot it actually down this way a little bit. There we go. So I get the top of the tissues. Yeah, that looks great. So this area right here. So this is something I wanted to talk about because I get most of my practice done at home. Let's see, adjust this. I get most of my practice done at home, just drawing the things around me. So you don't need beautiful flowers or a view of the sunset or, a model to be able to practice drawing. You can draw anything, including a box of tissues, a lamp. I draw my lamp all the time. A bookshelf. your bed, maybe how your pillow is wrinkled, whatever. Those are all wonderful ways to practice. Hi, Robin. Um, so, in the spirit of that, I wanted to draw this tissue box that we've propped up on the side there very precariously. I hope my shaky table doesn't mess that up. Here, maybe I can make it more stable. Okay. All right. So yeah, the thing I liked about this again was that there's all these straight lines and then there's all the curvy lines up here and a lot of cool shading we can do. So I'm going to move my face out of the way a little bit. Okay. Don't mind this little yellow circle. It's just because of my iPad and I haven't figured out a way to get rid of it. All right. So this first thing I'm going to draw here is, oh man, how am I going to do this? Well, what I'm seeing here is a little bit different, but you'll get the idea. I can actually see these three sides. I don't know how I would draw the thing on the screen on here sideways. Let's see. One second. Technical difficulties. Okay. So first thing I'm going to draw the box because that seems like the easiest thing. So I'm going to draw a square. How far in can you see? About right here. Okay. So I'm going to draw a square about this size. Hopefully you can see that. And this is this square here. Now, I'm seeing a different angle because I'm actually looking at it straight on and not through the camera. So don't mind if it totally doesn't look like what you're seeing. Okay, now I'm drawing this side, this underside that you can't see. But if you're looking at your own tissue box, you might see a side that looks like this. And then now I'm drawing this side, which has the tissue coming out of it. And coming down, and then this is where the tissue comes out, and I'm just going to quickly sketch the edge of the tissue there as it comes out, something like that. All right, and those are the three sides I can see. Now, if you were drawing from my screen, you could see this side and that side. And yeah, that would be difficult for me to draw because it would be kind of like drawing in a mirror because I'm seeing it on my screen different. But anyways, you'll get the idea. So this first shape, you get two really fun things. You get a cube, which a cube is just a square in 3 dimensions. So you get a square on the front, and then you get squares on the sides as well. But drawing that is tricky because you don't actually draw squares. So you might see a cube, but this would be a square straight on. But if you look at a square from any other side, say like this here, let's see, it's a watercolor box. If you look at a square head on, all the lines are straight. But if you're seeing it from an angle like this, then all of a sudden, this shape becomes more of a diamond or like a parallelogram, something like this. So those, in real life, we see them as the same. We see this as a square, and we see this as a square, I don't think that this box is shifting shape as I'm spinning it. My brain knows that it's staying the same shape. I'm just turning it. which is an interesting thing about drawing and learning to draw. You start to see the shapes as they actually are transforming into diamonds and away from squares. But just keep that in mind and just draw what you see. All right. Now I'm going to do, this is the fun part, I think, and I'm using just a regular pencil here. I've sharpened it to a extreme point just because I can get, if I hold my pencil flat like this, I can shade a little bit better, and the tip stays sharp. So, anyways, where are we? So, now the fun part is the shading for me. So I'm looking at, well, let's do the box first. For me, these two sides are shaded and this side is really bright and this side is shaded. So I'm going to shade not all the way dark, but about to the darkness that I actually see on the box, which is kind of a middle gray. And I'm doing this very roughly and loose because I just had a bunch of coffee and my hands are shaky as is, so sometimes I can't be too careful with my lines. All right, now the shading of this tissue. I'm just gonna look, kind of squint my eyes. If you squint your eyes or blur your photo or, whatever you can do to make it so you can't see the details, you just see the dark areas and the light areas, almost like there's only two shades. And when I squint my eyes at this shape of the tissue, I see this kind of zigzagging dark pattern in the shadow, and I see the opposite, a zigzagging kind of white pattern going to the top edge of the tissue. So I'm going to keep that in mind, and I'm going to look at it, squint it again to see where to do this pattern. But now I'm just going to go ahead and draw it on my thing. And again, I'm seeing this tissue at a slightly different angle than the camera is, so that protects me from having to get it exact. Just joking. So this is the line I kind of saw. I don't know if you can see it on there. This line of the shadow zigzagging up and down. So I'm going to go ahead and just shade that all in. Not too dark because I can always get darker. And right now I'm refraining from using an eraser. I have a pencil, so if there's any terrible mistakes I can erase, or I like to just erase at the end usually, just to clean up little things. But I find I actually learn more. Is this going? Yeah. I find I learn more by not erasing and by just keep kind of, because in other mediums, painting, watercolor, drawing with pen, you can't erase. So it's kind of a luxury with pencil, and you just kind of got to set your own rules. There's no real rules. You can erase. You don't have to. But for me, I like to set my own rules. And my rule is avoid erasing as much as possible. Yeah. All right. So I've drawn this just a light gray over this whole area. Now I'm going to focus on what I see as the darkest parts of that shadow, and I'm just going to darken them. So I see this area is a little darker. I see there's like a thing here. There's a line that goes actually up here that I missed. this light. Something like that. And there's little texture, kind of almost dots from on the tissue that I'm kind of doing a little bit of. Everything you see, just try to kind of mimic it somehow in your own way. Okay, so I've drawn the tissue. Sorry, I hear the girls yelling outside. Um, Now, around where the tissue's coming out, I see a dark line. All right, cool. So I've lightly shaded. I wonder if I can change the brightness of this for you. There, that might be a little bit easier to see what I'm seeing. Yeah. Darken it up. All right, so yeah, you can see I've made I've started shading this tissue coming out. Now I'm going to blur my eyes again and look at the box as a whole, and look at the shadow. Look for the darkest. You can kind of squint as much as you can squint to where you barely have your eyes open, and then you can look at your subject and try to look at where the black areas are, where the darkest spots are. And when I do that, I see that the bottom edge where it hits my table, that's the darkest spot. So I'm going to go ahead and press with my pencil as hard as I can without breaking it and do a dark line there, because that's going to be the darkest spot. So I should go as dark as I can with my pencil there, because I want to use this as much of the range of darkness to light as I can. There's also these lines of the cardboard that are really dark because they're in shadow. Just for a second. Alright, there's one on this side. Again, my hands are shaky today because of all this coffee. I haven't been drinking as much coffee. And today I thought, I have some. I'll make it. I'll brew it myself. And, wow. All right, cool. That's looking pretty good. So I got the dark areas, the darkest spots. There's actually a shadow coming this way too. And actually, if I want, I can draw this whole shadow that borders it. Being careful not to color in my tissue. So I'm going right above it because I see there's a shadow area there. Just filling that in. I like to put my drawings in a little bit of space. So that means drawing the things behind them, not just the thing you're drawing, but include the thing it's on or something that's behind it. Maybe even if it's the corner of something or just the edge or just the shadow of it. I don't know. It helps define it a little bit. Well, okay. Next part. I'm going to darken up some of these shadows in the tissue just to get it more contrasty. And I'm just going to, again, squint my eyes and look for the darkest areas and just copy that as best as I can, exactly as I see it. Which is, of course, going to be way off from exact because I'm human. But if I just keep that in mind, like I'm just going to draw, I'm going to get this just right. Allowing myself to not get it right, of course, but focusing on that goal. Cool. Now, I'm going to darken this shadow because if I'm blurring my eyes, the shadow of the whole thing is darker than the shadows on the actual tissue. So I want to reflect that by doing this. And that'll have the added benefit of making this tissue pop out a little bit more because it's really bright on here. So having a dark background will increase the contrast. When you have dark against light or, contrasting colors right next to each other, it helps stand out. Your eyes are drawn to it. So I'm just pressing kind of hard. You kind of get a feel for how hard you can press without breaking your lead. And I kind of twist a little bit too as I'm going, just so that my lead doesn't get too lopsided. But this is just a drawing pencil. I'm actually not looking at my subject now. I'm just kind of making this shadow shape a little bit more pleasant. Okay, cool. That looks pretty good. I think that for a quick sketch, this is a decent tissue box. I haven't done the shapes of these leaves, but I can quickly kind of draw those in. The pattern that's on the box. So just draw those little leaves. I'm just looking, not really being too careful with anything because I got other stuff I could draw after. And again, this is just practice. Okay, and then it says some letters here. Sometimes I write out the letters in my paintings whenever there's letters. Like this says the name of the brand, 7th generation. But a lot of times I prefer to just use scribbles or use lines and treat them as a visual element and not as letters. So I treat them as if they were just another texture on the painting. I don't know. That's just the way I like to see. That's the way I like to see things. But so you might want to just write out the letters of whatever you're drawing. If you're drawing your bookshelf, you could write out the titles that you see. Or you could just draw like I might and just draw little squiggles where the letters are. In the shape of the letters, you can still get the height of the tall letters and stuff. It's kind of actually really fun to draw letters. I'm just droning on as I finish this up. All right, I think that's pretty good for our drawing number 1 today. A tissue box. Let's get this in a little bit better light here. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna continue this, and I'm going to carefully not drop my iPad off this precarious balance and make some more room on the page here. How's this? Let's see. Only got so much desk space. Is this up? Nope. Is this? Nope, this way. There we go. Put this under here. Aha. All right. So, 1 tissue box in. All right, this is cool. So, this is a good exercise in itself. This is a white tissue it's clean, straight out of the box. I'll put it back in though, so don't worry, it's not going to waste. Anyways, It's a white object on a white background, which is a really nice practice to do if you're looking to get better at shading, because it takes out all the things like color um, out of the equation, and you just have essentially a black and white thing going on. Um, you could paint objects white, like if you have little plastic things, you could paint them white, which I've started a little collection of white objects or things to paint white. On my shelf, I have just like little rocks and a couple glass bottles painted white. But it's nice to have a white sheet or white piece of paper that you put them in front of it, and then you can practice drawing with them. So yeah, I've just kind of put this here. Let's see if I can get an interesting pattern going just by kind of playing with this here. Again, it's going to be a different pattern for you and for me. Now, I don't want too many crinkles in it, because each crinkle is going to be a line for me. That looks pretty interesting. Again, it's very different for me, but that's okay. All right. So now I'm going to do that same thing with blurring your eyes. Which way is up on your camera? It doesn't matter. So I'm going to blur my eyes and just try to draw that darkest dark black that I see with my eyes blurred. So you can keep your eyes blurred for a while, as squinted as you can, so they're barely open, and look at your subject or look at my screen. And you'll see this shape here. See that line? That's the top of your black. And it kind of comes down on this side. And then there's this area here. For me, I see a black shape around this edge. And I wish we could see the same shape, but I don't know how to set that up today. So I'm going to draw what I see. Which when I squint, again, there's a shape like this, and then it kind of comes down like that, and then there's like a shape like this. Okay, so I'm going to darken up those areas that I just drew. And this is a fun way to draw. Not just drawing the outline of the thing all at once, but just working from dark to light on shades, because the drawing just kind of starts to appear in front of you where it doesn't look like anything for a while. But then if you just keep trusting and keep using your eyes, it should turn into something with practice. All right, so I'm continuing to just shade in the areas of the darkest areas that I see. All right, so they're somewhere around here. There's a triangle. Because I've folded this quite a bit, I kind of kept messing with it. It's got a lot of little triangles in it, which will be a little bit tricky just because any kind of detail that's repetitive is tricky just to stay patient with. I'm kind of just setting my outline a little bit. Okay, now squinting my eyes again. Let's see. I'm going to darken just to be more clear. Darken all my shadows that were really dark. And then this triangle was dark. This line is pretty dark. That comes up like that. And then I'm going in with the next darkest. So it's not, when I squint my eyes, it's not the darkest gray, but it's like the middle dark gray. I'm squinting my eyes and I'm really looking at what I'm drawing. So for you at home, if you want to practice on anything, it doesn't have to be a tissue box. It could be your lamp or your do something that doesn't move. So not your cat, but maybe your couch, or if your cat's napping for a long time, um, or your window, anything, and just really look at it and squint at it, because that's how you can kind of trick your brain into seeing things in just terms of black and white and value, which means darkness and light. All right. Now this area is much darker. And as you keep going, you'll develop your own sort of whatever you're drawing, but in this case a tissue. It'll just start to form, and you can spend as much time as you want and as much detail as you want, just getting all the little intricacies of all the little shapes. There's so many little triangles of darkness and light. If you just look at it carefully enough, you can see, oh, some are darker than others, some are lighter than others. Poor Maple, I hear her crying in the other room. So I hope everybody's been well the last while. We had a meeting yesterday, a staff meeting, and we were just talking about how much we miss everybody and looking forward to seeing everybody doing this in person. So it'll be easier when I can help you in person. But please, if you have any questions or comments, comment on the videos or send me email. All right. Might seem silly to draw things like tissues or your, couch or whatever, but that's the way you get better. So you draw things like this that you don't care about and literally is a piece of trash, so that you don't spend too much time on it and don't treat it too precious, because if you're a student, you're going to make a lot of work that's not great before you can make something that you're proud of and you want to share. And if you're making stuff that's not great, you want to still do it with purpose and with intent, because that's how you get good at things. You do it and you try as hard as you can, but then be able to throw it away and do another one, and throw it away and do another one. I think of it like music practice, how you can practice a song all day and then still not be able to play the song at the end of the day. And so you have nothing to show for it, but you're that much better. You're a little bit better. And then the next day you try and maybe you can play the song. And it's the same thing with drawing, where you want to do a lot of drawings that you just throw away and you don't have any evidence of, because it's those drawings that make you better. So that's why I like to draw the things around me, because I never lose inspiration. Here's a little thing that's on my desk that's cool. Maybe I'll draw a couple things that's just sitting around. So I'm going to put my words of wisdom here. Draw junk. Well, it's at the top of my paper, but you can read sideways, can't you? Yeah, I'll turn my paper. There we go. Draw junk. Yep, I think that's my advice of the day. Is because it's always around. There's always, I don't mean just like junk. It can be trash, like a tissue. It also could just be like something laying around. That's what I mean by junk. like this clamp that I used last video to clamp up my drawing. Because every single little thing that you want to draw has its own shape and has its own reflectiveness, or has its own way that the light hits it. It makes its own everything has a different shadow. So you can learn a lot from anything you try to draw. And it doesn't have to be something beautiful or inspiring. Honestly, it's probably better if it's not beautiful or inspiring, if you're trying to learn. So yeah, I'm gonna draw this real quick. Um, so I'm gonna follow my advice of big shapes first, and also squint your eyes. So big first and squint. So big first. What do I mean by that? What's the biggest shapes? This one's very linear, so I see this line here. I see this line here. I'm actually using the object itself to measure it, which is nice. It's a nice thing about junk. Sometimes you can get little stuff that you can set on your paper. It makes it a little bit quicker to judge the sizes of things. All right. And I'm going real quick, just drawing this thing right in front of me. Drawing the big shapes first. That's about that thick. Then there's this little thing at the bottom. There's these pulls and little nubs at the ends. And then there's this kind of rectangle things coming off. You know, you don't really. I found this to be true, where I feel like I don't actually see things until I try to draw them. Then finally, I actually kind of notice so much more about an object as I'm drawing it than I would have otherwise. That's been really the most rewarding part about my art practice, has just been seeing the world a little more clearly, a little bit more. Oops, lost your feed, sorry. Seeing the world a little bit more clearly, and just noticing the little things. It's been really nice. Just drawing the shadow now of the shape. All right. I don't know if you can hear the baby crying. If so, I apologize. That's what they do. I think mommy's on it. All right. There we go. I got my shadow, got my shape. Now I'm going to squint my eyes again and really look at the darkest areas. And I see that the shadow is actually the darkest. So I'm going to go ahead and darken that up a little bit more. And then there's a dark inside. Dark up here. It's dark here. There's a dark undershadow. Dark here. Again, I'm going back and forth with squinting really hard and then opening my eyes so I can see, and then squinting. And that's allowing me to kind of see the darkness. Okay, so now we've got these letters, or numbers rather. And again, I'm just gonna not try to actually write them, but I'm trying to draw them. So again, I'm just looking at the darkness and light, and you'll see that certain numbers you could probably read, but certain numbers might just look like lines. But it's about creating the illusion of numbers, just by drawing it. That way it doesn't stick out and doesn't read on your drawing like it doesn't look like you have a drawing and then writing. They come together if you treat the writing like a drawing. Okay, now I'm going to shade the entire thing. Besides, I'm going to leave the areas I see when I squint. There's a bright highlight here, here, and here, or here. There's really bright. So I'm going to try to avoid that, but I'm going to shade in everything else around. Let's see, that's highlight up there. This is all kind of medium. Let's highlight right in the middle of this thing. And then this has the screw pattern, which I'm just going to do with lines going down. That should be good. And then boop, 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 boop. There. All right. I wonder if I can darken this up because it's looking a little bright again. Let's see. Press the little sun. Is that how you do it? Huh. I don't know. Anyways, I'm pretty happy with that little sketch here. Again, no eraser. I didn't even pull out my eraser for the other ones either. I'm not concerned with making these look perfect. My goal here is to get better and to look at things. 2 goals. I'm gonna write those 2 goals. 2 goals. Improve your eye, and the second goal is to notice little details. So, when you draw junk, your 2 goals are to improve your eye. That means to get better at drawing. So, actually, let's do improve your ability. Drawing ability. Yeah. Improve your drawing ability. So that's the mechanical part of this. You're getting better at drawing lines straighter, or filling in space quicker, or getting more interesting textures. When you try to copy something, you figure out little ways of like, ooh, this looks like foam when I barely touch the paper, or this looks like grass when I do little lines, or this looks like rocks when I do really straight, jagged things. You'll start to kind of pick those things up if you're really paying attention. So yes, improve your drawing ability and notice little details. So that's just, I never really looked at this little thing before. I just used it. But in drawing it, I noticed some of the things about it, that it was kind of squared off, that there was a number on it. What does that say? 1 inch. Oh, I didn't even notice that it was 1 inch, but now I do because I drew it. So yeah, draw junk. What other junk do I got around here? I'll do one more thing. Oh, this is interesting. This is for a saxophone. It's a mouthpiece guard. This is kind of an interesting piece of junk. What else do I got around here? I just cleaned, so. Aha, this is cool. How about a light bulb? This is an interesting thing. If I can get it to stop rolling. Where are you gonna stop? Are you gonna give me some space? Let's see. Maybe I could use this part of the paper now. I'm really using the whole thing. Oh, here was on the back is the drawing from last week. That was with 3 crayons. All right. You know what? I'm going to hold it into place, and then I can get my hand into it too. So I'm going to hold it like this. All right. And now, let's see. Maybe I can hold it in a way that... then I'll draw it like that. So then I'm actually getting my hand in there too. So first thing I'm going to draw is the big shapes first. That's this area of the bulb itself, which is pretty much a cylinder, not a cylinder, a circle, a sphere. But then it's got areas of light kind of very specifically getting darker and lighter. There's a dark area here, and then there's like a dark area that comes down like this. Then there's a dark area that comes off of my thumb shadow. Then there's a bright light for me right here, here, and here, and here, and here. And then the rest is probably like a really almost white, but not quite. So I'm just gonna barely touch the paper with my pencil, not going in those circles. And then I'm gonna go a little darker with this area. And that kind of comes around. All right. Again, the purpose of this drawing video today is to emphasize that you should, if you want to get better at drawing things that you like, whether it be horses or flowers or people or whatever, then practice drawing things that are around you all day. Junk, random things, a newspaper, draw those things. And that is where all the hard work will come from. So then when you try to draw something that you're inspired by, you'll be prepared. It's like keeping the practice, keeping your your tools sharp. That way, when called upon, you can deliver nice drawings of whatever you want to draw. All right, now I'm just drawing my hand, kind of clutching this. Again, I'm using kind of shaky lines on purpose because my hands are a little shaky as is after this morning coffee today. And I like the look. Because I'm working so fast, if I tried to be more careful, I wouldn't get through so much. So just by the nature of making these videos, I want to just be quick. All right. There's my hand holding the thing. Again, junk. What did we get through today? I think that's about enough. Let me zoom out a little bit here. Do it this way. All right, so draw junk. We drew a tissue box. This tissue box. What else did we draw? A light bulb, a little clamp, a tissue, all under an hour. I would show you, but I don't have it. My sketchbook. Where did it go? Be right back. Just to show you a few things I've drawn. This is what I got the idea for this today. Was I drew this same tissue box last night. Oh my goodness. Okay. Um, this was a cabin. I was in 3/19/19, so just over a year ago. This is actually the cabin I was in Colorado, and that's what got me into drawing again. I was drawing that day. Here was last night. This was my cat Cleo sitting on my lap. Olive doing something in front of me. All the Olive ones are really sketchy because she's moving so much. Here was a bunch of Olive's toys. That was more of a finished drawing. Let's see. Here's Olive's drawings. Oh, I did this thing where I was just using my pencil and my finger and making blended in pages, and then using my eraser to draw, which was really fun. So that's something you could try. Here's a funny girl. Here's a quick sketch of Ginger holding Maple. Most of the sketches are just very quick. Here was a few I did while watching TV one night. Self-portraits. I just kept moving a mirror around the room and drawing myself in it. Here's my baby napping. Again, none of this is junk. These are all things I love, but I try to date them so I know, I'm getting better because this is from a year ago. This is recent drawings, most of them. Here's another couple self-portraits. 1, 2. Again, I'm just drawing what I see. Here's my front yard, just a tree and the neighbor's car. Again, just draw what's around you. Maple in a seat. Draw what's around you, and you'll never run out of inspiration. Draw your feet. I went through a period of drawing my hands because my hands are always there. They're a good model. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this little drawing lecture and demonstration. I'm going to do a how-to on Thursday. How to draw Thursday at 1 p.m. And tomorrow morning I'll play some music for you live on this channel. Hope to see you guys soon.